What would change about the way you showed up today if you knew it was already done? Not hoped it was done, not prayed enough to finally get it done, not worked hard enough to make it happen. Done. Because there is a very different way you move when you're trying to get somewhere versus when you know where you stand. And I think a lot of us, especially people of faith, have gotten really good at saying we trust God while living like everything still depends on us. We pray about it and then we worry about it. We give it to God and then we pick it up again. We say, God, I trust you. And then 5 minutes later, we're trying to figure out how to help him do it. Anybody else? Because listen, sometimes our issue isn't that we don't believe God. Sometimes our issue is that we haven't learned how to live from what we say we believe. And that's what I want to talk about today. Hi, if you're new to me, my name is Raquel, and I'm your GPS for success. Let's get started. Breakthrough. On this season of One Breakthrough Now, we've been spending this entire time talking about identity, not finding yourself, not becoming some better version of yourself, but recognizing what God had already said is true about you and learning how to choose from that identity. Because when identity shifts, everything else begins to follow. Your thoughts change, your words change, your reactions change, your decisions, they change. And eventually, the way you live starts matching the truth you say you believe. And that's where we are right now. The blueprint for this season calls this phase practice the identity, not becoming, reinforcing what's already true. And today's conversation might be one of the biggest tests of that because it's easy to say who you are when nothing is challenging it. It's different when what you see doesn't match what you believe. You believe God called you to build something, but you don't have the resources yet. You believe your family can be restored, but everybody is still acting crazy. You believe you're supposed to step into a new level of leadership, but nobody seems to be opening the door. You believe you're financially provided for, but the numbers are sitting there saying, ma'am, no, we need to talk. And that's the moment when the old identity tries to come back. Because remember the pattern we've been talking about all season. A situation happens, the old identity shows up, truth interrupts. And then you choose from who you already are. The situation doesn't get to name you. The circumstances don't get to name you. The bank account does not get to name you. Other people's opinions don't get to name you. Even the delay doesn't get to name you. God already did that. So living like it's already done, it doesn't mean pretending something exists when it doesn't. It doesn't mean ignoring reality. And it definitely doesn't mean sitting on your couch doing absolutely nothing while saying, God's got it. Faith still moves, but faith moves differently than fear. Fear says, I have to make this happen. Right? That lie that's been drummed into us that sounds like wisdom. If it's meant to be, it's up to me. Oh, faith says, I need to do what is mine to do. And that's different. One is control, and the other is obedience. One has you running 20 steps ahead, trying to manufacture an outcome. And the other has you listening for the next step and being willing to take it before you can see how the other steps are going to work. Think about Abraham. God tells him to go to a land he will show him. That's it. There's no MapQuest, there's no Google Maps, there's no 5 year strategic plan with a quarterly milestone. Just go. And Abraham goes. That's what settled identity allows you to do. You don't need the entire plan or path to take the next step. You don't need everybody to understand. You don't need circumstances to confirm what God already said. And you don't have to become the person capable of taking the step. You choose the step from who you already are. And that's when the heartbeat of the shift happens all season. Identity received, not achieved. The blueprint puts it this way. You're not chasing, you're choosing. And I want you to really hear that because some of you are exhausted from chasing what you think will finally prove something about you. When I get the money, then I'll feel secure. When the business grows, then I'll feel successful. When they recognize me, then I'll know I'm called. When I get married, then I know I'm loved. When the opportunity comes, then I'll know God hasn't forgotten me. No. What if you stopped requiring the outcome to give you an identity God already gave you? Because if the outcome is what tells you who you are, you'll spend your whole life negotiating your identity with your circumstances. And circumstances are terrible negotiators. Today, they're up. Tomorrow, they're down. Today, everybody loves you. Tomorrow, somebody misunderstands you. Today, the door swings wide open, and tomorrow, one slams shut. But the truth doesn't move. So here's the question I want you sitting with before we go any further. If you genuinely believed what God said about you was already settled, how would you move differently today? Because in the next part of this, we're going to get practical. We're going to talk about what living like it's already done actually looks like in your everyday decisions, especially when the evidence has not caught up yet. Because you don't practice your identity so you can eventually become it. You practice living from it because it's already yours. So, how do you actually do this? How do you live like it's already done when your circumstances are giving you absolutely no evidence that anything has changed? You practice. And I don't mean practicing until you finally become somebody different. Remember, we're not becoming, we're reinforcing what's already true. So I want to give you a really simple daily identity practice. Start your day with one question. Who has God already said I am in this situation? Not how do I feel? Not what am I afraid might happen? Not even what do I need to accomplish today? Who has God already said I am? Maybe you're facing a financial decision, and instead of starting from there's not enough, you remind yourself God is my provider, He is my source. Now, that doesn't mean you spend money you don't have and call it faith. It means lack does not get to determine your identity or control your decisions. Maybe you're walking into a room where you don't feel qualified. You don't spend the morning trying to convince yourself that you're good enough. You remind yourself that if God assigns you to that room, you belong in the room. Then you walk accordingly. Maybe you're waiting on something you've prayed about for years. So instead of waking up every morning asking God, when are you going to do this? You can ask, how would I live today if I actually trusted you, God, with the outcome? And that's where this gets real. Because living like it's already done is not really about the future. It's about how you live today because you trust God with the future. Then comes the second question. What would this version of me choose today? One choice. That's it. Maybe she sends an email. Maybe he has a conversation. Maybe she rests instead of forcing something. Resting is also obedience. Maybe he says no to an opportunity that looks good but doesn't have peace attached to it, right? Let peace be your umpire. Maybe you stop checking the thing 15 times a day trying to see if anything changed. Listen, sometimes faith looks like moving, and sometimes faith looks like keeping your hands off of something. And that's why identity matters. Because when you know who you are, you don't have to make every decision from urgency. You can choose from truth. And then at the end of your day, I want you to ask one more question. Where did I live from truth today? Notice what I didn't say. I didn't say, where was I perfect? This isn't about perfection. You're collecting evidence. You're training yourself to recognize the moments when the old identity showed up and you chose differently. The situation happened. The old identity showed up. Truth interrupted, though. And this time, you chose from who you already are. Maybe nobody else even noticed, but you did. And those moments matter because eventually something interesting starts to happen. The choice that used to require a whole internal pep talk becomes your normal response. That boundary that used to make you feel guilty becomes peaceful. That room that used to intimidate you, it doesn't anymore. The situation that used to send you spiraling, it still happens, but you don't spiral. And one day you realize, wait, I'm not responding like I used to. That's why I don't want you measuring your transformation only by what's changed around you. Sometimes the greatest evidence that shift happens is what no longer happens inside you. The trigger still came, the old thought still knocked, the circumstances may have not changed at all, but you did not answer the door as the person you used to be. And maybe that's what living like it's already done really looks like. Not pretending you can see the ending, but knowing who you are while you're still standing in the middle. So this week, practice it. Who has God already said I am? What would that person choose today? Where did I live from that truth? Because next week is our season finale, and we're bringing this entire Shift Happens journey full circle. We spent this season talking about identity received and not achieved. But what happens when you look back and realize that the person you've been trying so hard to become may have been there all along? Next time on One Breakthrough Now, it's the moment you realize you've been different all along. Until next time, may God's richest and best be yours. Bye for now.
Breakthrough. This is your Prospera era, where dreams align with grace, abundance flows like rivers. You've stepped into your place. Rise, reign, and remember, you were born to shine. Welcome to your moment, Prospera, it's time.
We hope you enjoyed today's show on Prospera TV Network. Make it a point to visit us on YouTube and catch all your favorite shows anytime you want. Interested in hosting a show of your own? Or advertising your business on our network? Contact Elena Rodriguez.